We've been sort of developing a conversation around elderberry, but that goes much beyond elderberry as well these past few weeks, and so that's really been a real pleasure. And so and so Diana's here to talk to us about your experience as a cultural practitioner and to sort of just help provide context for how we can all think about engaging with the land and the plants around us and doing this work. So thank you. Yeah.
Hello. Again, my name's Diana Almendarez, and I'm Wintun, Patwin Wintun, and I'm also Maidu and Hoopa and Yurok, so I'm Northern California Indian. And I'm also Cherokee, English, Irish, and Aztec. So that's my dad's side. And we were raised with my grandma, who was a full-blood California Indian. She was full-blood Wintun Maidu. So that's where I got most of my cultural direction was from her. And my mom died when I was 4, so my dad was my main parent, and so you need that extra help from family. So that was really nice to have my grandma. She was my favorite, and then she became like my best friend when I got to high school because she decided that I needed to know everything, and so we went on road trips, to old sites where people live still, and she would deliver food for them, and so I basically got to hang out. And I was younger then, elementary school, and I got to hang out with their dogs and run them around, and I got to know all the old houses they lived in. They would be in the backwoods, in like one-room cabins or plank houses, that were built by the government for them to live on, and so they made use of everything around them. It was really neat. One of them was named Elmer, so they had all those old names that I love so much. And then Bertha was my grandmother, Bertha Norton. There was many Berthas, so it was pretty interesting. It's like, what's your name, Bertha? Okay. So they're just a popular name. And, she was born in 1897, and then she passed away in 2001. So she was very happy to have her foot in all these centuries, and she was very funny. And I loved that she would teach me. And of course, part of it was whenever we go around, if those berries were ripe, the elderberry, she'd get them, And the one thing I'd noticed is she'd gather them, And of course, I was there to gather, but I was also kind of had my mind on just kind of running around. She didn't mind. It didn't really help at that moment because I was just a kid, I didn't quite understand it. And so she would take it with us. And so here I am guarding a basket of berries that I didn't really know about. It's nothing I've ever seen. You don't get it at the store, And then I think, could I eat some? And she'd go, no. And so I'm not sure why. Just listen. That's one thing I learned is you don't ask the elders questions. You listen to them. And if they catch you watching them a lot, then they'll start teaching you. If you show interest and a steady interest. So that's pretty much what I would do. And eventually what happens is we get to a house, she had the berries, she'd take them in there and give it to them. And then they would end up bringing something out to her like a gift, like a trade. So I was kind of seeing this process happen, and that was just the basis of it. We were near it, we were there, we gathered it, we went to, that was theirs. It was on their land. And that's kind of like how Grandma would say, that's theirs. We gathered it, and I would, are we going to take the berries? Do we get any home? She'd be like, no, that's theirs. And this is where it comes from, where my deeper understanding of this is their land. Those people lived there in that spot, so what grows around them was theirs. And then it made me think about things like being in elementary when they teach you that Native people didn't believe in the ownership of land. And I'm disagree with that totally, because again, here we have that thought that this is on their land, they live here, this is their land, these are their berries, we just don't take them, they're theirs. They may ask us if we want some of them. She goes, but I prefer, just because they're fresh, we got them here, just give it to them. It's fine. We'll might find some on the way home. Again, I'm not worried. But eventually she started worrying, because the more and more you would see the environment being taken over in malls, shopping malls, parking lots, and things being destroyed and taken out. And Grandma was from the old world, right? 1840s, she was running around, 1850s and 60s. Her parents were running around doing things and gathering, and knew the places to go gather, so she knew them too. So it was like firsthand knowledge to her. She was showing me places where they weren't there anymore. Like, it used to be here where we gathered this. So I eventually had the thought in my mind, oh, we'd use milkweed for this and that. And then it didn't come until I became a naturalist. And then when I became a naturalist at the FEO Nature Center, which is like in 1980, 1985, I was over there doing that. And I was given the job of a cultural naturalist. I was the cultural naturalist. And then I also managed the structure, the village that's there at FEO Nature Center. If you've ever been there, head over there. They keep it going, which is nice. The only thing they didn't do was keep a native person there, which is what I tried to maintain. Like, keep a native person working here, at least. That way it makes it more real, and then it'll evolve better, So, but when I was there, I evolved it pretty good. I put an acorn granary in it. I had a really good routine with the students, with everything we had. We had a big grinding rock and everything, and a cooking pit and a leaching pit and all these things you needed to make acorn. So, but the first thing I did is I wanted to make it so real for the classes that would come. And we'd have like 30 classes coming. And so the things that Grandma taught me, so I ended up doing the fire drill and hearth blade there. And I would start the fire every morning with the drill and hearth blade. So, so that was something that the students got to see, is that was a real thing. And it works fast. I was able to do it pretty quick, and I've had people tell me that I go to mountain man things, and those guys sit there and sweat like heck before they get fire going. And you just come in here and rip it out. And I go, because I guess probably because I got my materials, which I use to do it, which is cattail and tule, cattail and cottonwood hearth blade. And going up in the hill and working with the native people in the hill, like Plumas County, I met the families up there and some relatives that were, like Danny Manning is a relative, and he's a fireman, and he does the lead in most of our fires. Or I'm also a burn boss, so I do leads, and we work together a lot. And this is one of the Leo Pope work with Cal Fire, we do over at the Tending Garden. And so every fire we do there, we only do fuelless fires. We start every fire with hearth plate and drill. If not, if we don't have that available, then I'm going to use maybe one big light.
Yeah.
And I'll have a grass bundle that has everything I need. Coals, like stick to become coals, and I start the fires with that. And so that it is pretty, fuelless. We're just using the fuel on the ground, and so I'm looking around here and I'm seeing fuel on the ground, like right here, so, on days where it's a no burn day, then we're doing prepping. We're doing something like that where we're putting all the dried stuff underneath shrubs so that we can go across and burn it all. But it's all controlled, and it's a traditional burn, so I'll go through it and tell everybody what our focus is, what we're going to do. We got it prepped already, and then I got a lot of burn boss helpers, that like to show up, because that's like a fun thing to do, really. Not afraid of fire, but I am afraid, and I warn people that fire is more powerful than us. There's no way we can say we can control it, because it can. If you take your eyes off of it, it'll take that opportunity. That's all I can say. You take your eyes off, I've got to be ready. I'm there on the land. I'm not going to be doing anything else about the whole time being there watching the fire and going back and forth to all the burn bosses and making sure it's all in control, and then being able to just keep my eyes on it. It's been really good, and I've had some really good fires where we got them in and out. Within 2 hours, we burned the whole thing because of the way we set it up, and the people I worked with and how we coordinated it, So we were able to get in, start at 10 and be done at 12 on the nose, and then we were able to go. I'm like, that was a good burn. Dark black. We want it all black because that's what we need to make the soils healthy, and the ash is what we need to go into the water because all that is a part of healthy land, and I gotta say, elderberry isn't a plant that I know super well. I know everything about it. I know how to use it and make things out of it, but I've never been the berry maker. And the main reason why is because people were still doing it. It was an active process. People didn't lose that. A lot of people lost the acorn processing because you lose your oak tree. Those are the first trees they cut down when they came to California, was all the big giant white oaks. And I worked at Sutter's Fort, and they wanted to rebuild the center building, and they wanted to get white oak, and I'm going, no. Why do you want to get white oak? That means you're going to have to kill some big heritage oaks. No. I was like always the voice behind everything, telling them, I don't like that. You're not doing it right. You got to get a substitute. You can't use that. But they did it anyway. They don't listen to me, but it doesn't mean I can't stop talking at them, because that's what I did. And so the direction, I was going with them, it kind of worked. They didn't do living history anymore, where you pretend to be in the 1800s. The key date for Sutter's Fort was 1839, 1840, but a little bit before the gold rush, so that was the period. So I played period acting with their groups, which was fun, because we'd been on a redwood canoe before, traveling up and down the rivers and stuff. It was really good, but at the same time there was that oppression that they still kept on us and denying what really happened, and so I heard a little bit of clip in what Julia was saying about the land, right? The last line of that land grant, that stuff about how getting the land away from the people, and that's all behind that phrase in elementary school where Native people didn't believe in the ownership of land, which isn't true. We had lines, and I think the most obvious thing for me when I'm thinking about ownership of land is that the language belongs to the land, or language belongs, so if you're a Patwin, like I am, Patwin Wintu, that means I live in this area because that's our land, you see. And then if you're a different kind of Patwin or different kind of Wintu, then that dialectal name, like I said, which is Patwin. Kachil is the language name for not the Willows area, up the river, up the highway a bit north. Kachil is the name to their area. That's the designated land base. Anybody in that land base spoke Kachil. Just like Yoshadihi. Anybody in their land base speaks the Yoshadihi dialect. And luckily, we had a elder who still, her first language, she was the last person whose first language was Patwin Wintu. And she spoke English second. So it was wonderful to be working at a place called Tending and Gathering Garden at Cache Creek Conservancy, because that was her place to go and be able to sit in it and think Patwin Wintu. She couldn't think that anywhere because there's no names for roads, traffic, cars, houses, buildings. There's no words in our language for that. It's all native language and all the plants that you're using and the animals and the sky, the land, everything. That's what she wanted to think. She wanted to go there and just be immersed in the language around her, which was the land. So it was very, very interesting to spend a lot of time with her. My grandmother, half Maidu, half Wintu, She had bits and pieces of both languages. And then by marrying the Hoopa man, Hoopa and Wintun, she had bits of his language and both of them. And then she spoke English, and then she had to speak Chinese and had to speak Mexican, and English, because those are the languages that came in. So her father was really well versed in all those languages, and he was a trader. He traded for their livelihood, taking materials, trading them. And he was also a scout and a guide. So I was really happy to be able to step in his footprints by being a guide too. Because even though I was a naturalist in the one spot at FEI Nature Center, I was also a guide up the Sacramento River, the American River. I did the Sutter Buttes, a lot of places in Sierra Nevada and Plymouth, my territory. So I've been kind of like all over here and there in my territory. Some places I couldn't be, like the ravines. I didn't want to spend too much time escaping in the ravines. I'm thinking, those are for the animals, and this is the only places they have left. I'm not going to go in there and scare them out. It's kind of like how I felt. But it was always good to go on top of a ridge and see things. And I had a ridge walker in my family too. All the different jobs, and I was always amazed by her. Her name was Indian Nellie, and she was a ridge walker. She took all the time and knew the ridges and how to get from like Sierra Nevada to Plymouth County very quickly, faster than a car, because she knows how to walk the ridges and she knew all the paths. And so my grandma would talk about that, going, well, by the time we get to Quincy, they're going to be there already, because they know the ridge walk, but at that time, she goes, at this time, day and age, that would happen, but it would be days. We'd have to take wagon trains a long time ago. So grandma was around in that, she called them buckboards, all those buckboards out there that she would be riding. But her dad was so good at what he did with being a translator and a communicator and a tradesman that he became really good at that and got good marks, good pay, and so he ended up being a native with one of the first cars, a Model T that he drove around. And grandma would love that, them all getting ready to go jump into, them to go to the ceremonies, and that's what they did. They wouldn't go anywhere else besides ceremonies. It was still driving slow because you're on a unpaved path. And then grandma would tell me that, oh no, she goes, we're out here in this area, and then he has to stop, and then he jumps out of the car, and then he goes walking towards this native person that he sees walking off of the hill, and he goes running out to him to greet him and give him some food and water. She goes, and he's out there for a while, and she's like, I never liked when he did that because we're alone in the in the Model T, and he runs fast and you can't keep up with him. She goes, so that was always like a trap to her. And then she would say he would talk to him for a little bit and then come back to the car, and she remembers seeing him go like this, like putting the hand in between the car and him, because what he did was go ask him, would you like a ride? Are you going to the ceremony? Would you like a ride? And he'd be like, no, I don't have nothing to do with Western society. No, I don't like that. I'll get there. And so they're going, okay. Just thought I'd offer it and gave him water, talked to him a bit. But he'd come back to the car, and then they would take off, and then grandma would think to herself, who was that? How come he didn't want to come? And he's going, well, he's like going through a lot. He's going through a lot. So I just help him. I'll walk when I get a chance. And this is her dad talking, George and I. And we'll take stuff up to him, occasionally go visit him on his site, at his site. I go to see Maidu. He goes, no, he's Yahi. That's Ishi. His name's Ishi. So they knew Ishi. He wasn't just an Indian that wandered out of the forest, to be put in jail in Oroville. He was a native person who was the last of his, I'd say, village set. So he just got to a point where he'd get lonely and he'd want to go to ceremonies. But when he went to the ceremonies, he walked. He didn't want the car. And he'd get to the ceremonies and start sitting on the outside, and they'd go out to talk to him again. And he never wanted to come in, and he never wanted to meet anybody. And Grandma always was perplexed by that. Why does he want to meet people? Why doesn't he want to meet more natives? And it's like, he's going through a lot. He just wants to live in Dayahi, so he's just going through that. He goes, and I can't make him do anything. I'm not going to do that. So it was the conversations they have. But so Ishi was, he suffered. He was at a time when they pretty much killed all his people off, and there was like what you call Indian bounty hunters, and that was for some reason really popular in his area where he lived, like Bernie Falls area, so that's what they would do. They had people that were professional at killing Native people, and you could get $25 a head, literally. It's not just the cost to enter a place. It was the cost of the Ishi culture, our culture, a lot of people. We were busy being farmers. My great-grandpa, George Nye, kind of escaped that by his friend that he worked for in the farm, who was named Nye, Michael Nye. And Michael Nye told everybody that he was, that George was his son. He's half German and half Native. So he would lie to everybody to save his life, because you could kill an Indian, but you can't kill a German. And so that saved my great-grandpa from being, just gotten rid of all of a sudden. And it happened. If you were a Native person working in even the shops in Sierra Nevada, and if someone decided, hey, that's an Indian guy in there, those are Indian people in there, I can make some money right now, and they'd drag them out and kill them, even though they were busy working for people. And it was a horrible time. And my grandma seen that, and I would ask her, because I worried about her mental health and all that kind of stuff, because I see her sad sometimes, but we made her happy being crazy kids, and being goofy. And I always, I was the kind of kid that ran and jumped and played and climbed trees and fell a lot, so my knees were always scabbed, and my pants always were ripped on my knees. And so every once in a while, I thought it was quite creative to put my pants on backwards. So that way I can, use the pants to the best benefit. And so that's the kind of thing that made Grandma laugh. Was all of our quirky little things. And so every once in a while, when I got older and I'm in college and I'm taking Native Studies class, and I'm asking her, I want to write about you. Can you tell me about it? And we get to those hard questions. Like, what happened to our people? What happened? And she'd get quieted up, and she'd just say, I don't talk about those things anymore. And I could see that serious look on her face, but I wanted to break it. I wanted to know. So I'd constantly ask her, can you please tell me at least one thing? And she'd go, I don't talk about those things anymore. And then it was like, zip. And she was quiet about it. And it took me a while to honor that, because of my curiosity and needing to know, not just that part of the culture, but all her cultural things that she didn't want to do because it would give her away. So she never made elderberry juice. She never made acorn. She never ground acorn. All those things I got to do with her towards the end of her life by being able to show that to her, because she ended up being a doctor. She was a medicine woman. She was going to those houses in the old backwoods to give them the medicines they needed, or go gather them fresh for them and give it to them then. And somehow she knew what people needed. She'd carry it with her, she'd doctor them, and then it was so cute that, like, when I first got pregnant, my first pregnancy, and she was like, oh, I need to tell you that if you get to a time where it's really, really hard, and I'm like, yeah, where's she going with this? I think I'm going to get something here from her, She goes, yeah, if it gets really, really hard and terrible, and you're at a moment where you're by yourself and you start feeling like you have to give birth, Diana, she goes, go to the river. That river is going to help you. And I'm going, oh, okay, that's how we did it. And she's going, yeah, that's how we did it. And she goes, no, I'll show you more later. We'll have to go down there. And I go, okay. But, just that fact that all these little things I had to live through to experience it for her to be able to tell me, So I'm glad she lived a long time. She lived 100 till she was 103, and she was very aware even towards the last minute. Well, of course she got weak and wanted to go. She'd get to a point where she's coming out of a dream saying, I got to see so and so, I got to see, and tell us that stuff until finally, it was time for her to go, because she was saying, I think I'm going to go next year. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just like trying to understand this comfortableness she had with going, because we're all sad. We're doing the cry songs, along with her, and very sad songs, and so anyway, we're doing all that, and she's just kind of excited about being able to see people again. She goes, well, I get to go back, so I'm not sad. And I'm going, okay. I'm just very confused, but I'm at that place now. I feel good about that, because eventually it got to a point where she did go, and we were all together singing the cry songs. All the people she knew that came, and a couple of them were professors. Because she would do what I do. See, I follow in her footsteps. Go to the universities. I talk. I share. I teach. I'm a little bit more hands-on with the things we do, and I'm just saying that I'm now working with scientists here too, to work on healthy water, the ash of the leokpo, which means fire, good fire, So, like I said, I'm still teaching and using language too to cross over in a lot of the different things. Is like I'm actually speaking to the land, and whenever I go cross lines to other places, like Miwok territory or my Maidu territory, when I go back home, I live in Sacramento, I try to switch my brain to Maidu language, that I'm here, then it's Wintu language. When I'm going across, when I greet Miwok people, and I'm like, Tumuchuchkas, which means hello in their language, I'm trying to keep myself like that. First thing I ask is how you say that in your language. That's all very important, because how you say hello in Patwin to the Yoshadihi people is Hekami Bosai, means hello, how are you, greetings, and then in my language, which is Waidihi or Waititi, little different pronunciation. In our language, it's Hekami Bobo. So whenever I see them, I'll say Hekami Bobo. Yeah, Hekami Bobo. And then they look at me for a minute like, oh, you're from that other area, you see. So the whole language was like geared to everything you are and where you are, and I always appreciated that of the language. It's designating your life on that piece of land. That's your land. It gives more direction to what that means. The ownership, a stewardship, the ownership of being able to take care of it, and in a lot of ways, that's how cultural burns are. Once you burn, and this is with CAL FIRE and Forestry Department and everything, they know that once you burn and start stewardshiping an area, that could be yours. You're the caretaker. And that's what kind of happens along the way, is I'm burning, and so I'm known as the burner of that area. So I'm so happy to be that. Even though I thought at one time it might come down to an issue of, is it a man's job or is it a woman's job? But all through my life I've always been told, well, that's more like a man's job, but you could still do it as a woman. So it ended up being like that, and even though I was at a place where Don Hankins is one of the major burn people, he's Miwok, and he works at Chico State. He's kind of like all over the world now teaching burning, and bringing burning back to all different types of peoples everywhere. And that's something I don't want to do. I don't want to leave California. It's hard for me to be outside. But the thing is he's taught it, and I kind of waited for him at times, to tell me, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But he never has. He's just very welcoming, like, no, when you have to burn, you have to burn. So that's what we're doing, and so I'm so glad that never became, I don't even know if it ever was an issue, because I've always been told it's both. The only thing I've heard that we can't do is go to this Sutter Buttes, which is, in our language, has a much better name. Onole, isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Onole, which means gathering grass, gathering grass, which ono doesn't mean like gathering, like picking. That gathering is more of people gathering. Ono means like people gathering together, a gathering of people. Ono. So onolei, which means grass, and that's what it is. Just rocks and lots of grass that are important seeds for our people. So I consider that the seed bank. To me, being up and down that all over, it's a seed bank. It has plants from everywhere all over California and everywhere. It's an amazing place. And so it's been something that I've been on and around a lot, but it's also something that we call the center of life, the middle mountain, and it's referred to as like the source of where the first land was broke and our people's creation site. So very important. And I was told as a woman, you don't go up there. But my grandma finally just said to me one day, you know what? Go up there. It's calling you. You know, if this happened and that happened, it's calling you. You go to it and you do what it wants. So that's what I did. I started just kind of doing everything there. And it was a great place to be. And I don't go there as a lot now, maybe once a year, you know, but it's was a brilliant place. And it's the environment, the land is different everywhere on it too. Looks like it's part New Mexico when you're in certain parts. It looks like the flatland in some parts. It looks like the coast in main parts of it, and it just complete landscape that holds all the landscapes in it. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, homeland, Potwin homeland, right here. So I just wanted to say, Nikon, Nimo, to all of you, which is, you know, welcome friends to this site here, and I'm glad to share the day with you today doing elderberry, and it's a beautiful plant, and it's also, just keep in mind that it's one of those plants that you have to be really careful. It can be poisonous. They just got to put that out there, and they're doing it right. And you know, I haven't heard of anybody dying over this. Can I see the list? No. So anyway, it's just that cautionary thing that's always out there all the time. So I just wanted to say thank you and for coming, because I really get to make it once, because like I said, it was something everybody did, so I didn't feel it was something I needed to learn. I needed to go find something that I could dive into a plant and bring it back to our uses, which is Thule. So that's what I'm all about now, is doing work with Thule, making everything boats. I've done all of it, and I'm pretty good at Thule. And then I'm working with my daughter Uti here. She's doing it too. I'm good at acorn too. So I do Acorn Day at the Indian Museum in October. So I just throw that out there for all of you to look for that in October 19th, actually, this year. And where I cook it too. You know, I'm not just grinding it and cracking it. I'm going to be cooking it so you can taste it. And it's my favorite way of cooking it, with hot rocks. And actually, I'll have it no other way. So I just wanted to thank you for inviting me here, and I'm going to be here working with elderberry with you guys. So I hopefully learn a lot more. So I appreciate that, because I'm into the science too. I'm going to be picking that up with this and the egg business, how that works. So thank you all for coming, and any questions today that you want to ask, I'm here going to be with you. So
You spell it P